Well, welcome back. We're now here for panel number 2 of the day of the Self-Build and Renovation Show 2024. Friday, October the 11th, so there is another day to go, as I keep saying. So if you're not here, get down here. If you're watching this in the evening, not live, seriously, we were just sat here chatting about the buzz that's out there is just so heartwarming to hear. So much going on. We did the Rome a moment ago that really gave you an insight into everything that you can see here, and we've still got more to cover. Right, panel number 2. This one is pitfalls and opportunities. Quite a wide subject, that one, and it really is to try and look at some of those possibilities. The idea of the panel is we've got some experts in different angles, and we're going to then just let this conversation go. I'm not from this environment, I am from the production company, so I get to ask questions that you might think, what on earth, how do I not know that? It makes sure that everybody is on the same level. The good news is I've got guys here that do know what they're talking about, no pressure. I've got Andrew Jones. Introduce yourself, Andrew.
Hi, as it's touched on, my name's Andrew Jones, and my specialist topic today is going to be it's going to be VAT.
It is, you're the hero for everyone, I would imagine, so it is about things that we can claim VAT back on.
Well, hopefully I'm viewed after the build as the nice VAT man rather than the horrid one.
Yeah.
That's the objective anyway.
I think that's a fair assumption. I think you're on safe grounds there. And then we've got Simon. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Simon Orrells from Frame Technologies. So we're talking everything timber frame. And as I've always said, if it can be drawn, we can build it in timber frame. So one day it could catch me out, and we've been close a couple of times. But we love to turn around and sort of challenge the engineers and challenge the designers into the sort of raw state of people want to build something different, and when they're building their own home these days, they don't want it to match next door. They want to literally have something very, very inspiring. So we're using the latest technology, latest materials. So yeah, if we can draw it, it can be built.
I've actually written that down because I'm going to see whether we can say true to that by the end of this. I'm not going to deliberately try to trip you, but I just want to see. I have made a note, and I might use that phrase myself. And Nick, obviously, we've got you joining us because this is quite an interesting topic from your perspective.
Yeah, so some people have been maybe watching throughout the day or earlier episodes of the series might know me by now, or you might be tuning in for the first time. So if you are, then I'm Nick. I'm Sustainability Manager at the National Self-Build and Renovation Centre, and I've been teaming up with Chris really on a lot of our filming today, and throughout the centre, and chatting with a lot of our exhibitors.
And the point being is from that sustainability manager
Absolutely.
angle,
So
this
I've
is
got
ideal.
my sustainability hat on.
Yeah.
I'm the NSBLC's first sustainability manager. That's a brand new role that's been created in the last couple of months, which really shows the direction of travel for the centre, and show that it's really a through thread in everything we do. And I think where I'm going to be able to add a little bit of value into this conversation of pitfalls and opportunities is from a retrofit perspective, because that's our brand new project of our new exhibit that we're going to be building, and it's going to be launching next year. So very exciting.
Makes sense. I was really struggling there though when you said that you were the first sustainability manager. As I was thinking,
and the last one so far.
Sustainability about let's see how sustainable that job is.
Let's see.
And I went, don't go there, but I just did anyway.
Not yet.
Hopefully, very sustainable.
I hope so too, mate. I
Watch
enjoy
this
working
space.
with you. Yeah, I enjoy working with you. Right. First question then, because obviously we get thrown in a few questions around this topic. From your perspective, I'm going to start with you, Andrew. What are the biggest project pitfalls to avoid and opportunities not to miss? Now, I'd imagine opportunities not to miss is more relevant to you, isn't it?
Yes and no. To qualify as a private individual to reclaim the VAT, you must be creating a new dwelling in its own right.
Got you.
Okay, so that can't be an annex to an existing house. You must be creating a new dwelling, and that can be on a greenfield site. That can be knock down and rebuild on an existing site.
Fine. Yeah.
It can be bringing a house that's been empty for over 10 years back to life.
So that could fall into the renovation as well. Then.
Yeah. So if there's a house in your town or city that's been empty since the day you can remember, I've got one in my local village. There was a tree growing through the roof.
Good gosh.
And as a child, it was a shortcut to get to the park. And I always used to worry, this place is haunted. So you'd run and scamper as fast as you can through there. Somebody, about 3 years ago, got hold of it, got planning to reinstate it, and they can get the VAT back then.
Right. Is there an actual figure on that? You said 10 years. Is that the actual figure?
It must have been empty, and you must have a paper trail evidencing that it's been empty for over 10 years.
Wow.
But over and above that, converting anything from that's never been lived in to a habitable dwelling. So that's the most fashionable ones at the moment are barn conversions, churches and chapels. You get a lot of building for your buck.
See, I'd be thinking they're haunted going back to your thing as a kid. I'd be worried about that.
It's getting somewhat fashionable a little bit again now to move back into the inner city. So where your dentist or solicitor is retiring, if you were to purchase that building and turn that back into your family home, that would also qualify. Although the route to market is different in relation to what the project is.
Wow, okay. Do they still, I'm going off on a weird tangent now, but I always used to have a hankering for like an old waterworks. Converting that, because they're big spaces, aren't they?
Yeah, I've done things like that.
Really?
Yeah, ones with these turn wheel things up the side, and
Well, I don't know. I think it's just because I saw it on a TV program, to be honest, and it looked amazing, but really wacky from the outside.
Yeah.
So, okay, so in terms of pitfalls, is you need to make sure that this project truly qualifies.
And understand your route to market, because it can be different.
And that's presumably where your service comes in, is that they're able to come to you with the situation and you're able to say yay or nay.
Yeah, and very much so. Having an early project chat. I actually spoke to someone on the way up in the car driving here today. One I didn't touch on there is where I said knock down and rebuild. If you leave one facade standing, that would also qualify as a new build in the eyes of HMRC.
Oh.
So I had a chap on the phone, just I was driving over the Severn Bridge coming here. He is putting in planning in the next few weeks, and he wanted to know what his position was in relation to, he had a bungalow, he was going to put a house there. He wanted to know what his position was if he leaves X, Y, Z standing.
Yeah.
And it needs to be basically just Y.
See, okay. So, he thought X, Y, and Z. But
Yeah, so he now, the conversation started, I'm going to leave a wall, which became 2 walls, which became 3 walls. Right? And I said, well, I like the first bit you said, but not the 2 bits after. So he's now gone back to his architect and his structural engineer to see what exactly he can and can't do. Yeah. And then once they've come up with a suggestion to try and meet the criteria, because with that being 20%, it's a massive game changer on his project.
Yeah.
So he's going to go back to his structural engineer and his architect and then send me what he would like to do or what they think is doable to decide then whether that would achieve the criteria for him to be 0 rated on his project.
Wow.
Andrew, that sparked another thought in my mind, which I'm sure I've heard you talk about, which is does it change your eligibility for the VAT reclaim on a project like any of those projects you just mentioned, if you're doing that to resell, as opposed to if you're doing it to live there yourself?
The scheme that I specialise in personally, which the vast majority of the people out there today would qualify if they're meeting the right criteria, would be doing a self-build, building something for themselves in the first instance. Now, you're not tied there forever and a day. You're allowed, you can move on and so forth, but it cannot be built deliberately to sell in the first instance. Otherwise, you're a developer.
Yeah.
And the scheme is for private individuals, people possibly working within the industry, but as a norm, work in other industries, have a day job and so forth, building their own house.
Yeah, I thought that was the case, but I also knew you'd be much more eloquent talking about it than me. So
I don't know if that's the case.
How long do you have to live in it before you could sell it?
There's actually not a requirement by HMRC.
Oh.
The requirement is you must meet the criteria at the point of submitting the claim. But I would have thought there'll be capital gains issues and so forth, that's slightly outside my remit. But as far as the VAT are concerned, you must meet the criteria at the point of submitting the claim, and that's where it ends.
Makes sense.
Because it's an interesting scenario with leaving the certain existing walls in to turn around and with the VAT. Because one of the questions we get asked time and time again is where, obviously, with timber frame being so flexible, people will say, right, I've struggled to buy a plot, but I bought this bungalow, and I want to turn around and take the roof off, and I want to turn around and go up on it. So I've got an existing structure, and then I want to put a timber frame on the top, on the first floor of it. Obviously, timber frame is very light, so obviously the existing foundations will turn around and easily take the first floor construction. And obviously, with the amount of lightweight claddings used these days, we don't need to worry about cavity details and things like that. But I'll always say to people, right, well, okay, then you've got your existing bungalow. You can turn around and take that up, but you won't be able to claim the VAT back on it. And so it's one of those then, because obviously it's one of those, if we do it as a complete knockdown, you've got total claiming on the VAT because it's all zero rated. And it's surprising how many times people don't realise that what that cost can be to turn around and convert that bungalow into a two-storey house, and what the likelihood of VAT money that they can't claim back, that suddenly makes them realise, that can quite often make them realise, I need to knock this down and start again. Yeah. And because I always say to them, well, hold on a minute, you're keeping the existing ground floor. Why? Oh yeah, but I've got half the house. And then it's like, yeah, but you're going to turn around and change the windows. You're going to put all new services in it. You've got to reclad the outside because the brickwork's shot. You really need to reconfigure the inside. So what are you actually saving? And by the time you add all those costs on that you can't claim the VAT back, it makes it quite interesting. So it's quite good having people like Andrew on board for people to actually understand sometimes the short-term answer isn't the long-term solution.
And of course, you'd have consistency of construction and so forth.
Because obviously, as Nick's saying, from a sustainability point of view, I said, well, yeah, well, you've got an existing traditional built, masonry built ground floor, and then we're going to put a lightweight timber frame on top of it. So the problem, one of the things you have then is, as Andrew says then, is obviously different construction types, which isn't necessarily a problem, but obviously heat movement. Because at the end of the day, you can't control, you want to control the heat in that house as a complete unit. And so you've got a first floor, very, very energy efficient, zero heating unit, and then a ground floor that's leaking like a sieve. And so you're upgrading that. And so when you these days, again, that short-term answer quite often, because self-builders are wanting to do the short-term pain for the long-term gain. Yeah. And so that's why quite often, and quite a few debates we've had in the Build It Theatre, it's like, my 5 whys of why don't you knock it down? Why are you doing what you want to do? Because I thought, and it's just to get people to think about that process, because as I said, it's usually not the architect will sort of try and take it down the road, obviously, of keeping that existing, because obviously there's a lot more work to do. Yep. And obviously a lot more work for the architects, a lot more fees for the architect, and a lot more cost for the client. But what's the best solution for the project?
And you're only as strong as your weakest link within that entire thing at the end of the day, like you were saying there with the ground floor. Yeah.
Well, once you start thinking, well, hold on, it's not like I'm taking all the windows out and replacing them with the same openings. 9 times out of 10, because you're reconfiguring the layout, you're moving in the openings. Yeah. So you're going to fill that window in there, open the window up here, and then you've got structural issues. Your foundation isn't obviously up to standard, so that's not going to deliver the performance as well. And obviously everybody now is trying to not just get thermal performance, but wants to get a very airtight house as well, because obviously if you've got air leakage, you've got energy leakage. Yeah. And if you've got energy leakage, you've got to replace that, which replacing that energy back in and placing that heat back in is going to cost you money. Yeah, so you've got to think about it. And as I said, the first answer can quite often not be the best.
And does that answer, because obviously I asked originally Andrew the question, what are the biggest project pitfalls to avoid and opportunities not to miss? I think you've kind of crossed into that, but possibly being led by that topic. Is there others from your side that you would almost kind of go, avoid these pitfalls and don't miss these opportunities?
I think the big thing these days is getting whoever's doing the superstructure, and obviously from a timber frame perspective, is get us involved in the project as early as possible. Yeah. The traditional procurement method used to be, you find your plot, you get your local architect on board, you get planning, You get the detailed design done, and then it's like, right, I've got my detailed design, building regs. I'm now ready to build my 4-bedroom house. What am I going to build it out of to start with? And then start to procure. That's too late.
Well, yeah, even down to basics is that suddenly they go, actually, no, that doesn't satisfy the planning that we just granted.
Well, the problem you've got these days, there's lots of different build systems. There's lots of different like overheating scenarios. There's lots of different things to consider. And as I said earlier, like it's one of those where if it can be drawn, it can be built. People are pushing the parameters. So whereas timber frame, for instance, 10, 15 years ago was a case of you got your architect, he did the detailed design, and then your timber frame came, so literally got designed off those drawings. These days now we want to be in the very early stages. So it's a case of you get your architect, you get your planning. Pre-putting it in for planning, we want to see those drawings because we want to sense check that design to say, one, it's value engineered, and two, what that budget cost is going to give you, because we can quite often go back and then say, well, I would reduce that window, I'd increase that overhang, I'd get rid of that return there because it'll save you money. Because the minute now they've got planning, we want to take over the project and do the detailed design. And that's where it's changed in the centre here now so much that your timber frame and your package home provider is actually giving you far bigger package. We're not just supplying external walls and roofs now. We want to deal with all the sort of thermal performance, structural performance, foundation design. We'll deal with that as well, because we'll have clients ring us up and say, right, you priced that job for us. We've finally got planning permission now. We've dug the foundations are in, and we're ready for you to come and measure. Hold on a minute, what part do you not understand of me saying, do not drop a bucket in the ground until you've got your superstructure provider on board? Because people always say, you can lose money in the ground or you can make money in the ground. And depending nowadays, for your structural warranty, you have to turn around and have a specific soil assessment done for the ground, the soil types in that foundation. You can't just say, as a local builder, I've lived in this village for 20 years, and for the last 20 years, this is the foundations I've always done. They always have to be plot specific. So it's get us involved as early as we can. And also, it's one of those, because obviously access restrictions. Because obviously at the end of the day, we make the panel. So we can make the panel the length of a lorry, or we can make the panel 4 foot long. So if we've got a project where we had one in Devon a couple of years ago where it had to be delivered off the main high street through an under walkway, literally round the back, and then still that 4-bedroom house was up in 4 to 5 days. But the locals were thinking, you ain't going to get that Arctic load of panels through there. But if we're involved early enough, you can design it to the parameters of what you need to do, which is why quite often we'll do quite a lot of extensions with timber frame, because you can actually make them work. And the product's quite light. So if you have to, obviously normally we'd like to crane erect it, forklift erect it, mechanical handling. But if we have to handball it, then it can be done.
I am picking up with your first comment about if it can be drawn, it can be built in timber, and with that as well. You do like being challenged, don't you?
We do like
that's your way.
I'm quite passionate that's the way. Like, I've done timber and timber frame for a long time, but we had one of the other sides of the business now with self builders struggling to find building plots is we do a lot of Class Q projects. Class Q project means that you'll get an existing steel frame agricultural barn.
Yep.
Then the farmer sold it off, got planning on it for a Class Q, which is easier to get planning. But from a self-builder's point of view, then they can get a plot in open countryside and a reasonable size by having this barn. So you then take all the cladding off it, and we then infill that barn with a timber frame solution. And people are like, well, how can you have a barn that was built for agriculture 30 years ago, put an off-site timber frame that's designed on computer, fit inside it? And we had that exact situation on a project in Stratford back in the spring, where the plot was a parallelogram. So it's completely out, there's no square wall in it, and the roof is a double barrel curve. The ground workers took three attempts to get the groundworks in correct, and he said, you're mad. We might well be mad, but what do you mean? He said, well, you're never going to design that in a factory in North Herefordshire and deliver it to site and it all go up. And we did.
You did.
And we never altered one panel. And so that just shows you've got to be involved early enough to steer the project, because we've got all our sort of designers and engineers and everything that this is what they live and breathe, to just steer that to get the best result.
And was Andrew, was that sufficiently changed then to qualify for the VAT?
It would. Now, a Class Q would qualify for 5% VAT from contractors in the first instance, rather than zero rating.
Yeah.
And a common error is that people think that, barn conversions, and we'll say that was a barn conversion, although it was just the steels, it would still probably have, the planning would still have read conversion of existing farm building or something along those lines. Then the common error there is that people either, obviously it wouldn't be Simon, but someone with less knowledge would zero rate the invoice because it's a new build. But it's not a new build, it's a conversion. Yeah. So somebody such as Simon erecting on site the superstructure should be charging 5% VAT.
Wow.
Where,
they make it easy, don't they?
Yeah. Well, I think they do it deliberately.
I think so.
Because if you don't get this right, you don't get your money.
No, exactly.
Right? So the contractor charges 5%. When you go and shop yourselves, you buy your kitchen, if you're buying blocks, sand, cement, whatever, at Jewson, Travis Perkins and so on.
Other shops are available.
Yes, and that's my line actually. Then you pay 20% as you would normally now. Then come the end of the build, and this is another common error people don't realise, you can actually claim the 5% from your contractors as long as you've been charged 5%, plus you claim the full 20% on a conversion for your purchases. So you get all your VAT back. But it's quite commonly thought, barn conversion's 5%. That's where it ends. No, it doesn't. You've created a new dwelling, it's zero. But you get there on a two-tiered type system. Yeah. But knowing all this from the outset is key.
It is. And I mean, picking up, Simon, on your comment, Nick, we've had it multiple times in the episodes we've done already, where the amount, it seems, doing different things within this centre, and it's that, get more of it covered early.
As early as you can, because as Andrew said there, one of the pitfalls they have to watch, there's a lot of Class Qs that we have to say at order stage, we want confirmation that it's going to be charged at 5%.
Well, not being funny, see, Simon, if you were to charge the wrong rate of VAT,
it come back on us.
You'd be liable for it. So you have to make sure
we have to make sure that
you've covered yourself and that you're charging the right thing. Because people say to me, I'm having difficulty getting XYZ trade to do this. Yeah, they're only covering themselves. And with all due respect, you make timber frames. You're not an accountancy company.
No.
So it's a bit unfair.
It's a bit unfair, but you also have to watch that now Class Q has become so popular that you're also getting what they call betterment on Class Q. So people will get a Class Q, they've then got 3 years to get their plan in and get it completed. But what they will do is turn around and actually go back in for full planning. So then it doesn't become it doesn't become a conversion, it is then a new dwelling, so it's then zero rated. Right. But if they take 18 months, 2 years to get that plan in, they've then only got 12 months to actually build their Class Q if they get failed on their planning. So it is the devil's in the detail, but it is talking to us guys as early as you can.
I'm conscious that we're now within our last sort of 5 minutes of this.
After the first question.
and it's fine because
the problem you picked two people that like to talk.
Perfect. Honestly, as Nick will testify to, is that it is absolutely perfect, and it's great. And let's be honest, is that if we were given a free rein, we could probably sit here and chat for about 2 hours about it. Yeah. And the key point I would pick up on, that's because there is an awful lot that needs to be discussed, to be considered. And I'll come back to the comment, Nick, that we've been saying all day and in every episode, in fact, is that the NSBRC brings all of you together under one roof to come down to this facility. And I'm not employed by them. I'm not saying this with a bias. It's just blown my mind, is that you can come here and speak to all of you as experts at these shows, and the fact that your stands are here at all times to be able to get in contact with you whether you're here or not. And it's have those conversations, and nothing's a silly conversation is a fair statement, isn't it?
No. There is no such thing as a silly question.
Yeah.
It's people knowing nothing at all, this very much should be their starting point.
100%.
Yeah, because yes, myself, Simon, we're all here to make money and do business at the end of the day, but we're totally aware that the people coming through the door are here to be educated and are here to learn and to be able to make knowledgeable decisions from a position of power rather than just guesswork, which is where you make mistakes.
And we've had many of the guests that have turned around and said is that they could come and speak to you, Simon, and you go, do you know what? It's not us you need to speak to. Come with me.
Yeah.
This is who you need to speak to.
Yeah, because you work as a team here, and we've been here for 12 or 13 years in the centre, so we're one of the the originals, and we've seen it evolve over time. But it is the centre is very much a family atmosphere, and one of the new exhibitors said to me this morning, "What's it like from a network here? How far do people travel?" I said, "You'll get people from all corners of the UK here will come to Swindon," and I think there's a lot of people still don't know about it, but it's growing massively. And I think as exhibitors, we always keep pushing out to everybody pre-show to say, come to the show and see. Once you've been here, you just realise that it's a go-to place that any self-builder's got to come 3 or 4 times before they start their journey, because it isn't just looking around the show as well. There's the courses, there's all the other things to do because as a self-builder, they want to try and keep the costs down as much as they can. They want to do as much of it as we always say, you get sort of dirty hand self-builders and clean hand. There's a lot of them that are trying to save money, want to be hands-on as much as they possibly can. So they'll come in here 4, 5, 6 times before they'll actually start their journey.
And the fact that it's open 6 days a week as well.
Yes.
So whether it's one of our busier events or it's on a quieter day when you just want to go and
see something specific and explore.
Touch something.
You can come back and see convenience.
And that I think is the golden nugget for the centre compared to a lot of commercial exhibitions. That it's that environment that people feel more comfortable with and more at home with, that they can just sort of rock up and go through. And like this weekend now, it's surprising how many you'll see of people here now over the 2 days. They're here for the 2 days. Yeah. And when we come back in January, you'll have people here for 3 days. And you're like, how can you be here for 3 days? But there's that much information to take in. And self-builders that come here are like sponges for information.
Yeah.
Because it's their house, it's their money.
All at different stages, all at different levels of knowledge, and you guys just literally cover, cater for them accordingly. And obviously, the other big thing with these exhibitions, I'm not supposed to call it an exhibition, am I? But it is, isn't it? Is that okay?
You can call it an exhibition.
Just want to make sure I wasn't getting in trouble then, is that there are 2 theatres running a whole sequence of presentations over the 2 days. Andrew, you are presenting both days in the Build It Theatre at 3 p.m.
Yeah, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
I'll make sure I'm there now.
And Simon, you're also doing both days in the Build It Theatre at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's warm-up pack.
Give me a shout when you come off. So something that came up this week, before we move on topic, client rang me, never spoken before, but he said to me that he'd attended my talk 2 years ago, all right?
Yeah.
But because I tend to say, have we met, etc., etc. And he said, no, but I've been following you on YouTube. I've followed all your instructions and everything you said on stage. He said, I actually went to the centre at Swindon on 4 occasions, and I did 2 of their courses, a 3-day course.
Yep.
Yeah, right. And a day or a 2-day course on something else.
Yes, brilliant.
This chap lived in Kent, built at the top end of Scotland.
Oh, wow.
So where you said about they come far,
They come from far
but it's
and
worth
wide.
it. It's a no-brainer. There's hotels on site.
Yeah.
Right? You can come
But
stay.
if you're undertaking a project of this size, this magnitude, you're going to actually make it happen without a disaster.
This is the biggest thing you're ever going to do or buy in your life.
And for many, it's their forever home. All
It's
that
their
sort of
forever
stuff.
home.
Which is why the benchmark thing from you guys has come in. I've only got a minute to go, but I did think that was a good segue.
We'll catch up with
into
Christina in our next roaming
But
segment
it's the
about
perfect
that.
place for that exact thing where it's that repeat thing. Right, final thing then to wrap up before I get in trouble is to both of you the same question. Why should someone come and speak to you? What can they get from coming and speaking to you at this show?
Do you want to go first, Simon?
Thank you. It's live information, and as we said, getting us in front of them as soon as we can to get them thinking about the different options they've got. Because, as we said earlier, if we can draw it, it can be built.
I do. I just love that one. I do love
I want
it.
How to get it back in again.
I do want to put that to the test because in May when we did the Festival of Sustainable Homes, we had a little activity for kids to draw their dream sustainable home. Maybe I should have brought some of those along for
There
you.
we are. There we are.
Blue Peter from back in the day.
Blue
Here's
Peter.
one I prepared earlier.
Yeah.
And I take it that that's
We've done the
easy.
demos here, so we can turn around and you draw it over there, we'll build it over
There'd be
there.
some weird,
But even
wonderful
if they
homes,
haven't
wouldn't there?
decided that they're definitely going timber yet, that's another reason why they should come and speak to you.
They should come and speak to us because at the end of the day, 75% of self-builders are building in timber frame. So at the end of the day, sometimes they don't understand the superstructure, sometimes they don't understand the advantages. And it's like everything else. There's numerous systems in the centre and not one system suits 100% of the projects, but timber frame will suit 75% of them. And that's where, if we need to hybridise it with other systems underground or whatever, we can. But it's one of those where come and speak to us, that we actually give you that sort of live information and actually throw the whys back to you of why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why did you say you want to use that insulation? Do you realise if you use that insulation that this could happen? And really, because as Andrew said earlier, there's massive knowledge in this place of the people here, and we just want to keep talking to people. As you found this afternoon, you can't keep us quiet.
That's fine. That's fine. So that's Frame Technologies, Andrew.
Right, okay, so I'd like to speak to any self-builder early doors to make sure that they are being charged the correct rate of VAT, that they understand where they should be paying VAT, if they should be paying VAT, what rate of VAT, and in relation to just things such as the names on the invoices. You quite often see people who are self-employed in their own right, or maybe have a property portfolio. Right?
Yeah.
So in my instance, I've got my Screwfix account in the name of Andrew Jones Lettings, which is just something I made up when I opened my Screwfix account. That now would be a problem if I wanted to go and claim my VAT back as a self-builder, because it gives the impression that it's a business.
Yeah.
As a self-builder, it cannot be a business.
Yep.
It needs to be in your name personally. Making sure that when Peter the plumber says to you, I don't do this VAT-free mumbo-jumbo, I'll give you a VAT receipt and you claim it back. That's not the case.
Yeah.
If you're going to pay VAT to Peter the plumber because he's not sure of the rules and so on, and you will not get that VAT back.
Because
So at
it
that
would
point,
leave
you
us-
need to decide, are we happy to pay Peter a 20% premium? And also, are we happy to use Peter, someone who is oblivious to the rules or doesn't want to know the new rules? Because things change, don't they, Simon?
Exactly,
And we need to be keeping up to date with these things. So you need to decide then, is maybe Peter the...
And the thing is, regulations and everything are changing all the time in this industry. So coming here, talking to people like ourselves, you're actually going to get that live information, not historic.
Well, that's the point. You're all over it all the time. Exactly.
because we live and breathe it. So it's...
Right. I'm going to stop it there because we could carry on talking forever. We've already overrun. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in. The
No
big
problem
point,
at all. Thank you very
Thanks for
much.
your time.
big
Yeah.
point is make sure
It's been good. They're,
Cheers, guys.
they're
go
good
and
ones.
see these guys, and you won't have that limit on the time. You'll be able to keep speaking to them. It's absolutely brilliant. So thank you both for coming in for that one. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break, and our next one isn't until 2:00, and that will be, we'll do a bit of a roam round. Nick, we'll be
Absolutely,
back on.
yeah. We're going to start with Christina telling us all about Benchmark, our new membership, and then
Yeah.
we'll have a bit more of a roam around the Trade Village.
Perfect. We've got another half to do of that one in the Trade Village, and then at 3 p.m. we're back for panel number 3, which is navigating regulations and shaping your vision. Crikey.
It sure is.
See you later.
Cheers.